Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon so that you never miss any video lesson from Rao's IAS Study Cell. Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified, an analysis of the Hindu newspaper from UPSC perspective. Today we will discuss the daily edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 21st May 2020. And the articles that we will discuss today are displayed on your screen. Now in today's newspaper you will find that a lot of news articles are ongoing issues and many of them have been already covered in the previous DNS videos. Further, there are articles which look important in first glance, but if you go through them, you will find that they do not have much content which is important for us from the exam point of view. So, for example, if you look at this article, it is related to health and its impact on economy. And we note that health is an important topic in the general studies paper too. However, the points that have been discussed by author in this article are not very important because they do not talk about the initiatives of the government of India related to the health sector. And also, they do not highlight anything about the constitutional provisions related to the health management, etc. Further, the issues related to health in India have also not been clearly identified in this article, and that is why we will not be discussing this article in today's DNS. Further, if you look at this article, it is related to boundary issue between India and China. And yesterday only, this issue has been discussed in detail. However, it was also discussed in detail in a previous DNS video under which we have taken reference of the NCERT, etc. So what we will do is that we will revise from that previous video so that you can have another view regarding the issue of boundary between India and China. And further, this issue between India and Nepal is also an ongoing issue. And this has also been discussed in a previous DNS video. So as you can see, the issue between India and Nepal has been discussed in detail in the Daily News Simplified of 12th May 2020. So you should go through this video and try and learn about this issue that is ongoing between India and Nepal. Now you all might be knowing that revision is a very important aspect in the preparation of civil services examination. And accordingly, as you can see that there are not many important articles in today's newspaper, so you should utilize this time for revising important topics that have already been covered in the DNS video. So in this regard, at least you should try and revise the issue of boundary between India and China and also this issue related to India and Nepal. And for this, you can always go through the previous DNS videos and also the previous DNS video in which the India-China border dispute has been discussed will be embedded in this DNS video itself. So after this, let us start today's discussion. Now this article on page number 6 talks about the possible impact of the major policy changes in the defense sector which have been announced in the recent economic stimulus package by the Finance Minister of India. Now, as we note that as a part of the fourth tranche of economic package under the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, the government has pushed for long pending changes in the defense sector. And some of these include the indigenization and promoting self-reliance. Second is the liberalization, and third is the structural changes in the defense production and shifting the focus from aspiration-based procurement to requirement-based procurement. So some of the aspects that have been discussed in this article are important for us from General Studies paper 3 point of view under the topic security. So let us look at some of these aspects which have been discussed by the author in detail. Now we note that in a strategic response to the current crisis which has been created by the coronavirus pandemic, the government has announced rupees 20 lakh crore Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. And some of the policy measures which have been announced under this Abhiyan will have both short-term and long-term impact. So we note that this economic stimulus package under the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan was announced in 5 tranches. Now the first tranche in the economic stimulus focused on both the supply and the demand side of the economy. And the focus of this first tranche was on small businesses and financial sector, and under this the main focus was on the NBFCs, and also relief measures were announced for the middle class taxpayers. Again, under the second tranche under this economic stimulus package, the focus was on all-round support to the migrant laborers, and this was provided under the extension of PM Garib Kalyan Yojana. Then under the third tranche, the focus was on long pending agricultural reforms. And under this third tranche, the focus was mainly on boosting the rural economy and providing support to the agricultural communities. Then, under the fourth tranche of this economic package, the focus was on industry reforms. And under this, the focus was on structural changes by enabling the private sector participation in key sectors, and which included the defense production, mining, space, and atomic energy. And again, the last and the fifth tranche focused on important issues in various sectors, and which included increased allocation of the MG Narega, the digitalization of education, and increased health expenditure and measures to enhance the ease of doing business in the country. So, all these announcements that have been made under the economic stimulus package highlight that the government of India has tried to bring in certain structural reforms that were pending for a long period of time. Now, what are the major policy reforms that have been announced related to the defense sector under the fourth tranche of the economic stimulus? So, the major focus under these policy reforms have been on promoting self-reliance. So, under this, a separate budgetary provision has been created for domestic procurement of defense equipments. Secondly, the government will notify a list of weapons which are banned from import. And further, the government has clarified that this list of weapons which are banned from import will be expanded progressively. Third focus under promotion of self reliance has been on establishing a project management unit to expedite the process of procurement. And finally, the focus has been on corporatization of Ordnance Factory Board, and this is aimed at instilling the spirit of competition, responsiveness, technology upgradation, and new public management. Now, let us look at what are the likely impacts of promoting such policy measures in defense sector. Now, as we note that the government has announced that it will notify a list of weapons which are banned from import, it will encourage the indigenous private players to invest both in research and development and production of such weapons which have been banned from import. And this will have advantages in the development of backward linkages, and which will be very helpful for the micro, small, and medium enterprises. Again, the decision of establishing a professional project management unit will provide an opportunity to remove the bottlenecks in the procurement process. Now, if you look at the current procurement procedure, you will find that in the last 5 years, out of the total 200 defense acquisition proposals which have been approved, 93% of these proposals are pending in the early stages of processing. So, this shows that the procurement process has been extremely slow. So, in this regard, the government's announcement of establishing a professional project management unit will provide opportunity to remove the bottlenecks in the procurement process. Further, another reform which has been announced related to the corporatization of Ordnance Factory Board will bring in best practices in the public sector, and it will help in better integration of the Ordnance Factory Boards in larger defense manufacturing ecosystem in India. Further, regarding the liberalization of the defense sector, we know that the government of India has raised the foreign direct investment cap in defense production, and it has raised the cap to 74% under the automatic route from the current 49%. Now, what will be the likely impact of this liberalization? So, it will give a push for the joint ventures of foreign and Indian companies, and this will lead to promotion of overall research and development and best manufacturing practices in India. So, these are a few policy reforms which have been announced related to the defense sector under the fourth tranche of the economic stimulus package, and these are some of the likely impacts. However, the author says that there is a need for clearly laying down a long-term integrated perspective plan based on requirements of the armed forces. Further, the defense procurement procedure which is being formulated should clearly spell out the strategic partnerships for joint ventures. And under the procurement process, indigenous content or domestic content should be given priority. So these are some of the suggestions that have been provided by the author for further improving on the recently announced policy reforms in defense sector. With this, let's take up the next news article now. Now, in this article on page number 6, the author has highlighted that the COVID pandemic is having a deep impact on Indian economy. However, in this regard, the economic measures which have been announced by India in terms of the economic stimulus package are non-coherent and are likely to give a limited boost to the Indian economy according to the author. And these stimulus packages have been termed as a panic reaction to an increasingly difficult situation rather than a deliberate plan of action. Now, as compared to India's response to the economic crisis, the author has highlighted that China has embarked on not only attaining economic and technological progress, but is also defining how power would be determined in the new globalized era through devising new international norms in emerging domains such as the cybersecurity, space, artificial intelligence, etc. And this has mainly been due to a well conceived plan of action over the years by Chinese authorities. So in this regard, let us look at the reasons provided by the author as to why will China's ambitious power outreach will not be diminished because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and how is the Chinese approach making it possible for China to dominate even after being hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, or even after its economy being hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. So this can be an important part for us under General Studies paper 2 under the topic International Relations. So let us look at some of these points. Now the author has highlighted that China is going to dominate the world even after being hit by the COVID-19 pandemic because China is now moving away from just producing goods for the global economy towards setting the standards for the global production, exchange and consumption. So the author highlights that China is now setting standards that will define production, exchange, and consumption. And it is not just focusing on where the goods will be produced or will it be the global supplier of goods. Now, the China Standards 2035 are the plans to set the new standards with regard to the emerging technologies. And these emerging technologies include the industrial Internet of Things, the next generation information technology, and the biotechnology infrastructure. Now, how these Chinese standards will help China in dominating the global economy. Now, by setting such standards, China is hoping to reap the early bird advantage at a time when the other countries are struggling because of the COVID pandemic and its impact on their economies. Further internationalization of Chinese standards would provide China a clear advantage by providing it an opportunity to set the standards in emerging industries, for example, equipment manufacturing, unmanned vehicles, new materials, cybersecurity, etc. And this would enable it to gain a dominant position in the global economy. Now, these setting up of the standards by China highlight that China has a clear strategic vision for dominating the global economy. Now, as compared to the Chinese initiatives, the Indian initiatives related to the economy in terms of the economic stimulus package that has been announced does not highlight any such giant vision for the global economy, or how India is going to dominate the global economy has not been clearly pointed out in the economic stimulus package. So accordingly, the author says that mounting an effective challenge to China at this time would require a well-conceived and carefully calibrated plan of action. Further, we have seen that there are talks of companies moving out of China. However, for India to attract these companies will require a lot of effort and a calibrated and coordinated and well conceived plan of action. And in that case, India needs to work on a clear vision which enables the ease of doing business in India. So, the author has highlighted the limitations in India's economic vision as compared to the China. With this, let's take up the next news article now. Now, this article on page number 4 is related to the locust attack in 16 districts of Rajasthan. Now, in this regard, let us look at some important points related to these locusts and the locust attack from our preliminary examination point of view, where it can be very important for us under the general issues on environment ecology and biodiversity. Now, these locusts are known as desert locusts and they affect entire North Africa, Middle East and East Asian countries, especially during the monsoon season. And these locusts which come to Rajasthan and the western part of India originate at the location which is known as the Horn of the Africa. And the countries that are located at this horn are the Ethiopia, Somalia, etc. So these locusts originate at the Horn of Africa and from there they travel through the Middle Eastern countries before coming into Pakistan, and after that they enter in the western part of India in the Thar Desert. And the states which are mainly impacted because of these locust attack are Gujarat and Rajasthan. Now, around 60 countries are impacted because of these locust attack, and these locusts are simply the grasshoppers. So, the only important thing that should be noted here is that these locust attacks originate from the Horn of Africa, where Ethiopia and Somalia are located, and these locusts travel from the Horn of Africa through the Middle Eastern countries into the western part of India through Pakistan. Now, these locusts mainly feed on the leaves of the plants, and that is why they pose a threat to the biodiversity and the standing crop in the farms. So, these are a few important points, and with this, let's take up the next news article. Now, this article on page number 10 has been written in the context of the informal summit which happened between the Chinese president and the Indian Prime Minister at Mamallapuram in Tamil Nadu. And in this article, the author highlights the history of border dispute between India and China. So, this article will fall under General Studies paper 2 under the topic International Relations. And in this, we will look at the issue of border between India and China, where both these countries have disputes, and also what all initiatives have been taken in the past to resolve these border disputes. However, before that, we will look at the history of this border dispute and how this border dispute has evolved over the years, and what role was played by the British colonial government in this border dispute. Now, before looking at the history of the boundary disputes between India and China, let us look at the history of relations between India and China. Now, after the Chinese Revolution of 1949, India was one of the first countries to recognize the Communist government of China. And the first Prime Minister of India had strongly supported the Communist government of China. And this was mainly because China was also coming out of the Western domination. However, the first Home Minister of India, that is Vallabhbhai Patel, was worried about a possible Chinese aggression in the future. However, the first Prime Minister of India had thought that it was highly unlikely that India would face an attack from China. Further, in the year 1954, the guiding principles between India and China was signed, and it was known as the Panchsheel, and it provided for 5 principles of peaceful coexistence. And they were signed between the first Prime Minister of India, Sri Jawaharlal Nehru, and the Chinese Premier Zhou Enlai on 29th April 1954. And this was considered as the important step in the direction of strong relationship between India and China. Now, although the relationship between India and China started enthusiastically, however, differences emerged over the issue of Tibet, and also ultimately this led to a war between India and China in the year 1962. Now, the most important issue between India and China was related to the Tibet. And in the history, Tibet had been most of the times free from the influence of China. However, at times it was also under the influence of China. So in the year 1950, China took over the control of Tibet. However, at that point in 1950, India tried to persuade China to recognize Tibet's claim of independence. However, when the Panchsheel Agreement was signed between India and China in the year 1954, India recognized Chinese sovereignty over the Tibet. And as such, India conceded China's claim over Tibet. Now, after 1954, the Tibetan spiritual leader, that is Dalai Lama, had visited India, and he talked about the deteriorating condition in the Tibet because of Chinese occupation to the first Prime Minister of India. And in the year 1958, there was an armed uprising in Tibet against the Chinese occupation. And in this background, the Tibetan spiritual leader Dalai Lama crossed over into Indian territory, and he had sought for asylum. And this asylum was granted by India to the Dalai Lama. And this was one of the biggest issue between India and China relations. And Chinese government was not very happy about the asylum that was provided by India to the Dalai Lama. And this was mainly because China considered Tibet to be a sovereign part of China. And the issue further escalated, and it led to the Chinese invasion of India in the year 1962. So for this, you can go through the NCERT of class 12, that is Politics in India since Independence. Now after this, let us look at the border dispute between India and China. So as you can see in this map, India shares one of the longest borders with China. And this border length is about 3,488 kilometers. And this border between India and China spreads from Jammu and Kashmir in the north to Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. And also it shares border in the state of Sikkim. And further, India shares the border of China in the northeastern part along the Arunachal Pradesh. However, both these countries have boundary disputes regarding two of the important territories, that is Aksai Chin, which is under the Chinese occupation presently, and also about the Arunachal Pradesh, which is occupied by India presently. So, in this background, let us look at the history of border disputes between India and China. Now, as you can further see in this map, the Aksai Chin is presently occupied by China, and Arunachal Pradesh is in the control of India. And there has always been a difference of perception of the boundary lines between India and China. And this has resulted in one of the longest political battles over boundaries in the history of the world. So, first, in this background, let us look at the dispute on the western part of the border between India and China, which is related to the territory of Aksai Chin. Now, the present situation of boundary in the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir is that one part of it is occupied by Pakistan and it is known as the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. And here the line of control divides the territories between the POK and the state of Jammu and Kashmir, or the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir. Further, regarding this border with China, Aksai Chin is a territory which is occupied by China. And the boundary between the Aksai Chin and the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir is the line of actual control. Further, Pakistan has ceded some of its territory from the Pakistan occupied Kashmir to the China. And this territory was ceded to China by Pakistan in the year 1963. Now, you might also be knowing that China is developing the China-Pakistan economic corridor from the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, on which India claims that the Pakistan occupied Kashmir is a part of India, and that is why such creation of China-Pakistan economic corridor is illegal according to international laws. Now, the province of China, which borders the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir, is known as the Xinjiang province. And India has accused China of illegally occupying this Aksai Chin territory. Now, according to China, the Aksai Chin is an extension of the Tibet Plateau. However, India claims that the Aksai Chin is an extension of its Ladakh Plateau. Now, why is China claiming this Aksai Chin territory? Now, Aksai Chin is actually important for China as it connects the backward province of China, that is Tibet, and the Xinjiang. And that is why China is adamant on claiming Aksai Chin to be its part. However, India claims that Aksai Chin is a natural extension of the Ladakh Plateau and it should be a part of India. Now, why did the border dispute between India and China arise in the first place? So, this dispute arose because of the wrong policies of the British colonial government in India. And the British policy regarding the boundary was guided by their own geopolitical interests. And in this background, the British themselves were not clear regarding the boundary between India and China. And the British policy of boundary between India and China was guided keeping in mind the issue of Russian aggression. Now, at one point of time, the British advocated that Aksai Chin should be part of Kashmir. However, at other time, it advocated that Aksai Chin should fall under the Xinjiang province of China. And all this confusion was created because of British perception of the Russian aggression in this sector. Now, the northern border of the Aksai Chin is famously known as the Johnson Line. However, the inner border of the Aksai Chin is known as the McDonald's Line. And in this background, India claims that Johnson Line is the correct boundary between India and China. However, China claims that this McDonald Line should be the line or the boundary between India and China. So the main issue of Aksai Chin arose because of the ambiguous policy of the British government in India. And that was mainly because at one point of time, British claimed that the Aksai Chin should be made a part of the Kashmir and Johnson Line should divide the boundary between India and China. However, at another point of time, they claimed that Aksai Chin should be made the part of Xinjiang province of China and McDonald Line should be the boundary between India and China. And this ambiguous policy of British regarding the Aksai Chin territory has led to the dispute regarding this Aksai Chin territory between India and China. Now, because of the disagreements regarding the boundary in the Aksai Chin sector, present situation is that the line of actual control divides the boundary between India and China. And this Aksai Chin is presently occupied by China. Now, after this, let us look at the border issue between India and China in the eastern sector. And in this line, in the year 1914, a Shimla conference was held by the British colonial government of India. And in this conference, Tibet was envisaged as an autonomous and buffer state between India and China. So at this conference, it was outlined that the outer border of the Tibet, which was along India, will be the boundary between India and Tibet. However, the inner border of the Tibet will be the boundary between China and Tibet. And as such, the Tibet will remain a buffer state between India and China. Further, the British demarcated the boundary between India and Tibet, which is known as the McMahon Line. And this agreement regarding the McMahon Line was signed between the representatives of the British government and the Tibetan representatives. Now, this McMahon Line is another contentious issue between India and China regarding the border in the northeastern part. Now, in this background, China claims that McMahon Line is not the actual boundary between India and China. And this is because the agreement regarding the McMahon Line was signed between India and Tibet. And China claims that Tibet was not a sovereign state at the time of this agreement. And that is why China does not recognize McMahon Line as the boundary between India and China along the state of Arunachal Pradesh. And due to this, China claims that Arunachal Pradesh and the Tawang Valley is a part of China. However, India's stand is that China has sovereign right over Tibet. However, Arunachal Pradesh is the part of India and McMahon Line is the boundary which delineates India and China in the northeastern sector. Now, after this, let us look at the various initiatives that have been taken by India and China to resolve these border disputes. The first in this line was the Shimla Agreement of 1914, which was signed between British government of India, and through this agreement, McMahon Line was recognized as the legal boundary between India and China. However, the present Chinese government does not recognize this Shimla Agreement, and it claims that it was signed between Tibet and British government. However, it claims that even at that time, Tibet was under the sovereign control of China, and that is why this agreement stands invalid. Further, in the year 1954, the Panchsheel Agreement was signed between the first Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, and Zhou Enlai of China. And this was known as the Agreement on Trade and Intercourse between Tibet region of China and India. Now, this Panchsheel Agreement indicated the willingness to respect each other's sovereignty and territorial integrity. And that is why India recognized the Chinese claim over the Tibet region. So, according to this Panchsheel Agreement, India finally agreed that China's control of Tibet was valid. However, India provided asylum to Dalai Lama in the year 1959, and the ensuing war in the year 1962 led to the deterioration of relations between India and China. And that is why no agreement could be arrived at between both these countries. However, it was only as late as 1990s both the countries started talking about resolving the border disputes. And as such, various confidence building measures have been taken by India and China. And both these countries have signed various bilateral agreements in the year 1993, 96, 2005, 2012 and 2013. However, the most important one was signed in the year 2003. And in this agreement, India and China agreed on the appointment of special representatives for the consultation, and it was aimed at arriving a framework for boundary settlement. And both these countries agreed that such a framework for boundary settlement would provide the basis for delineation and demarcation of border between both these countries. Further, in the year 2005, both the countries agreed that the border dispute should not affect other bilateral engagements. And as such, both signed an agreement on political parameters and guiding principles of settlement of India-China boundary question, and this was signed in the year 2005. And this 2005 agreement has been the basis of all boundary dispute related discussions between India and China. Further, in the year 2012, India and China agreed on the establishment of a working mechanism for consultation and coordination on India-China borders. And recently in the year 2018, these special representatives, which were agreed to in the year 2003, held their meeting at Chengdu in southwest China. And the talks at this meeting of the special representatives was aimed to achieve an early solution to the dispute and to maintain the peace and tranquility at the borders. Now, although the final resolution to the border dispute has not been arrived, both the countries have decided that they will arrive at any solution to this dispute by maintaining peace and tranquility on the borders. Further, both the countries have agreed in the year 2005 that the boundary dispute between the two should not affect other engagements between India and China, and especially it should not affect the economic engagement between India and China. Now, in this background, let us look at the point of view that has been forwarded by the author in this article. So, the author claims that the recently held informal summit between the Chinese president and the Indian Prime Minister reiterated the need for an early settlement of the boundary issue. And this early settlement of boundary dispute should be fair, reasonable, and mutually acceptable. And it should be based on the guiding principles document which was signed between both these countries in the year 2005. And about this we have learned on the previous slide. Now, in this background, the author highlights the inability of both these countries to settle the issue. And that is why the author has argued that the boundary settlement should be done keeping in view the backdrop of history of boundary formations, and also keeping in mind the disagreements that have led to these disputes and key negotiations that have happened in the past. And regarding the issue or the missed opportunity in the history, the author highlights that India and China were very close to settling the boundary dispute when in the year 1954, China was settling the boundary issues with the then Burma and the present day Myanmar. And China had recognized the McMahon Line as an accomplished fact in the year 1954, which it presently does not recognize. So in the year 1954, the China had proposed that the McMahon Line would be the boundary between India and China. However, this fact did not materialize, and the relations between both these countries deteriorated on the issue of asylum which was provided by India to the Tibetan spiritual guru Dalai Lama in the year 1959. Further, there was another opportunity which was missed by both these countries in the year 1960. And in this year, China declared that it was prepared to accommodate the Indian point of view in the eastern sector. However, it would only accommodate the Indian point of view if India accommodated the Chinese position in the western sector. Now, what this means is that China was ready to recognize the McMahon Line as the boundary between India and China in the eastern sector. However, this would only happen if India accepted that Aksai Chin was a part of China. And this is popularly known as the swap principle. And this principle states that Arunachal Pradesh will be recognized by China as a part of India only if India recognizes that Aksai Chin is a part of China. And this swap principle was proposed in the year 1960 by China. However, the then Prime Minister of India, Sri Jawaharlal Nehru, had opposed such a swap principle. And in this particular background, the author claims that the inability of Indian side to accept the swap principle was a missed opportunity, and that could have eventually led to a settlement of the dispute between both these countries and would have also contained the escalating conflict that happened in the year 1962. So in short, the author highlights that the swap principle should be the guiding principle for India and China for settling their boundary disputes. So these were few aspects of the India-China boundary disputes, and with this, let's move to the next article. With this, we conclude today's discussion. Now let's take up the question for the day.